having been raised Roman Catholic and going through being baptized and confirmed and First Communion and Catechism and all of what's considered Catholic, I never read the Bible. I remember thinking, where is God? Do I get to talk to him, or is it just the priest that I talk to? And I didn't know anything about the Bible, to be honest. I didn't know anything about the Bible. We were told what to read. I could do probably a Catholic Mass in my sleep. The first time I started praying with my husband, I started praying in Hebrew because I had learned so much Hebrew by then from attending service, and we had lived apart for a number of years. My job was here on the East Coast in the Washington, D.C. area, and we had a house in Colorado. 6 months into our marriage, I realized I didn't know who I married. I didn't truly know who I married. At that point, it was really heartbreaking. I struggled because, marriage to me was meant to last forever, and we both were dealing with demons at the time, and neither one of us were walking with God. We were married in a church, but we didn't go to church, and we really were strangers. Once we got into our marriage, it was as though we had become strangers to each other, and that's when you start to see the person more for who they are, their idiosyncrasies and whatever they might be battling in their own lives. And it was so painful for me in the marriage. I thought it would be less painful if I walked away from the marriage. That's when I met my very close girlfriend, who's like a sister to me. She's my sister in the Lord, and her husband. And we were having a conversation about faith, and she kept inviting me to her congregation, and I kept politely declining. And she never stopped inviting me, and I continued to politely decline. As I got to know her better, she explained to me that she was a Jew who believed that Jesus was the Son of God, the Messiah that was prophesied in the Old Testament. And I remember my mouth was open, and I realized I was being rude because I was gaping with my mouth open, just gaping at her and thinking, how can you be a Jew and believe in Jesus? So she kind of laughed at me, and not laughed at me, but chuckled. She giggled when I said that, and she nodded, because evidently I wasn't the first person who thought that. And she said, why don't you come to Son of David? So I thought, okay, I'll go. And my very first service was Yom Kippur. And I remember her telling me to wear white, and this is how much in the world I was. All I could think of was, it's after Labor Day, we're not supposed to wear white. I went to this service. It was the first time that I had ever heard Hebrew spoken. And I had no idea what was being said, but I knew that the words that were being spoken were reaching my soul and my heart, because I found the tears streaming down my face. For me, that's why this building fund is so important. I mean, really, pulls on my heartstrings, because if it weren't for coming to Son of David, my marriage would have ended, and I'm not sure that I would be walking with God the way I am now. So I started with Son of David first, and when we started to pray together, it was an entirely different experience, and I'd never heard my husband pray. And it was the most wonderful thing to do as a couple, to pray together. To pray for others, to pray for each other, to pray for our marriage, our families, our congregational leaders, the body of Messiah. It was a totally different experience. And I learned that going to service at a Messianic Jewish congregation. Who would have thought that I would learn to pray with my husband in that way? That's why it's easy for me to say, won't you please consider giving sacrificially to our building fund.
Son of David Messianic Congregation has been sharing the love of the Lord to the Washington, D.C. metro area for over 25 years. Our new property is situated on Norbeck Road with easy access to the ICC and sits right next door to Leisure World and a huge brand new neighborhood. As we raise the funds to break ground on our new building, we ask that you prayerfully consider donating to this project so we can continue to live out the calling that the Lord has for us in the Silver Spring and wider Washington, D.C. metro area.